Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA Podcast, episode number 96. It's Friday, the end of another week. Dom, it's preview time, and this time, it's for hashtag UFC Vegas 26.
And boy, was there some shuffling this week to get this card put together. But it did come together, I will say.
You know, there was a hit song in middle school by a group called LMFAO. And they said, "Every day I'm shuffling." And that's what this card did.
So clearly, Cowboy Cerrone is going to come out to that as his entrance song.
Could you imagine?
I'd pick him by a 10-second knockout if that were the case.
Lovely. So how are you feeling right now? You know, end of another week. Just, you know, obviously we've had a lot of shuffling going on with the card. Not been a super stacked news week, but some interesting stuff. Like, how's everything going? Good back home? All that?
Yeah, I'm still at 82% unpacked since Wednesday. So Yesterday didn't get to do as much, but we're getting close. Almost fully set up here in this new studio, quote unquote. Still grinding, and here we are now at episode 96. Big things coming very soon. Noah, how's your week been in my old apartment?
Well, I think I bumped up to about 25%.
Oh, okay.
So I still got quite a bit to move over. Not sure if I'll get it all done this weekend or not. I have till the end of the month to get everything out of my current house. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a pressing issue, but I actually will be in your land, in your neck of the woods next week.
This is true.
Mean, it's pretty important to be getting some of this done now. But everything's good, though. Spent the last couple nights in your old apartment, and it's not haunted, so.
Yeah, nothing ever happened to me while I was there, so hopefully you're in the clear.
Yeah, but as I mentioned at the top here, preview show, you guys know the drill. Come on, we've done so many of these.
Oh, we've done so many. My head hurts.
But this one's going to be a fun card. It's actually a really good card.
Really good card. Bottom. Oh, yeah.
The headliner's been, I guess much discussed because this was originally supposed to be the highly anticipated bantamweight bout between Corey Sandhagen and the returning TJ Dillashaw, which, don't get me wrong, probably one of the most anticipated fights for that entire division all year. Instead, we get a women's flyweight matchup between two natural strawweights, Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson. I'm going to argue it's still a great fight and still worthy of being a headliner considering their last two performances, but I understand it's a step back as far as excitement, but I don't think it's enough to not watch.
Oh, and the card that precedes it is unbelievable. This is an incredible fight night. Literally the first fight of the prelims all the way to the new main event. I mean, this is a great card. And it's an 8 o'clock start time, which is even better. Woo! I'm ready.
But before we get into it, Dom, it's time for the news.
The news.
Not a ton going on, but some big hitters here.
One very big hitter.
Yeah, we start with a postponement, a delay, if you will. Our originally scheduled 5-round co-main event, not title fight, between Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards has been postponed. It will no longer happen at UFC 262 in about a week. Instead, it's been pushed back to UFC 263. Now, our first 5-round non-title fight will be
it's just a featured bout.
The main card.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on this? Nate Diaz, the one with the injury here, not sure, hasn't been specified what kind of injury we had, but hopefully this fight happens for Leon's sake, right?
Oh, man, no kidding. It was undisclosed. I'd say it's nothing too serious. Obviously, they just bump it back 4 weeks. And now all of a sudden, yes, that does cause a pretty big hit to 262, but that card was stacked already, and now we get Benny Dayush and Tony Ferguson as the co-main. I'd love if they made that 5 rounds. Probably won't, but that would be sick. But that card is stacked anyways. Now, the 263 card June 12th is insane. We've got Adesanya Vettori 2, Figgy Moreno 2, Diaz Leon Edwards, and then there's like 5 other incredible fights on that card too, including Paul Craig, Jamal Hill, JoJo Calderwood, Lauren Murphy are fighting on that card. I mean, we've got 2 back-to-back banger pay-per-views now, and I can't believe we're going to have a 5-round fight between 2 huge name guys, and then there's still 2 title fights after it. It's crazy, but I used to be so against this idea, but now all of a sudden it's really starting to grow on me. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, here I am calling for one to happen in a week. Who am I?
Would you expect us to do anything different, though?
Oh, this podcast has just changed me. I don't know if it's for the better or worse, but it's changed me.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny. Isn't it about less than a month ago we were saying, what's on UFC 263? We're like, what's even on
and
this
now
card?
The card's nuts.
Yeah, they really said, oh, okay. They said, oh, okay, you guys want to be a critic now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. The pay-per-views all year so far, and what we're continuing to get even until July, holy moly. The UFC is swinging.
The true winners here, the fans.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
So it's disappointing that this fight gets pushed back, but I mean, as long as it still happens,
that's what matters. Yeah,
it's a month difference. You know what? I'm not going to complain too much about it. You know. Now, as far as that July card, we had 2 big additions added to UFC 264. The first, Irina Aldana and Yana Kunitskaya. Dom, this is a pretty important fight.
Yeah, I love that fight. I think that's a really good fight at women's bantamweight. I mean, you've got Yana, who's on a tear right now at number 5. Aldana at number 4. Very important fight. 2 fresh matchups for the current champ and Amanda Nunes. So you could truthfully look at it as a number 1 contender fight, because in a division ruled by the queen in Nunes, who has destroyed everyone else, all it takes is 1 win. I mean, we say it all the time in divisions that have a dominant champion, and it's no different here. I think that's a very fun, stylistic fight. Yana, people are going to sleep on it, but she's only lost once in the UFC, and that was to Chris Cyborg in a title fight at featherweight. She's been on a tear ever since she went down to bantamweight. I think it's a good fight for her, and for Aldana, looking to bounce back looking to bounce back in general, and I think it's just a fun fight. And I'm excited for it. And I think this one, along with the one we're going to talk about, both, truthfully, could be on the main card. And that's going to fill out to be quite a great main card, too.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think the biggest benefit for these women, facing off here, is the fact that they both haven't faced the champion already.
Or each other.
Amanda Nunes. Huh?
Or each other.
Right, or each other. So... you look at Irina Aldana had a chance to really solidify herself as a number 1 contender, but had a very, disappointing performance against Holly Holm, or guess if you want to say Holly Holm just looked incredible.
I was going to say, it doesn't help Aldana's case that Holm had the performance of a lifetime.
Yes, that's true. But Holly Holm's already been finished, beaten, pulverized by Amanda Nunes. So, Aldana, you got to think if she could come out here and put on a highlight reel type performance over Kunitskaya, it's going to get the UFC brass to be paying close attention to her. Same with Kunitskaya. She doesn't have that. You just said 1 loss in the UFC, and it was to Chris Cyborg, who's, second best female fighter of all time?
Yeah.
So, there's no reason why a win for Kunitskaya can't already push her to the top as well.
Yeah, I will say, okay, I'll be honest. I misspoke. She does have 1 loss at bantamweight, but it's to Aspen Ladd. I apologize. But still, it's Aspen Ladd. You know what I'm saying?
It's a top name in the division.
1 loss at bantamweight. I mean, she's really on a tear right now. She looked incredible in that last fight against Ketlin Vieira, too. I was very impressed. And again, the winner of this, truthfully, could just leapfrog the rest. That's just how it is in this division right now.
Yeah, it's a good point. Also, on that same date, July 10th, UFC 264, Sugar Sean, he's back.
Back again.
And we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday, but he had been kind of putting out hints about who his next opponent was. Ends up being a bit of a name that's known. We both know who this guy is, and he's a good fighter, but maybe a bit...
It was not what anyone was expecting.
Yeah, Luis Smolka ends up being the name chosen here. And I like Luis Smolka as much as the next guy. He's a good fighter. He's been around for a while. But you felt like you got to feel like for Sean O'Malley, like this feels like a lateral step. It doesn't feel like a step forward for his progression right now. Like you kind of feel like you're just treading the same water you already did with his last couple fights. I know one of those he lost to Marlon Vera, but then he comes back in a big way, and I feel like they just took a step in the same. They just took another safe step in Luis Smolka here.
Yeah, I thought for sure a ranked opponent would be next for Sugar Sean. I really did.
Now Smolka, he's a game opponent, and we had our doubts about Marlon Vera, and look what he did. But I'm just saying on paper, I won't lie. When it was announced, I was a little bit disappointed at first.
Yeah, and we talked on Wednesday about how the push for Sugar Sean is just a little slower than I think a lot of us thought originally when he came out of the Contender Series. But maybe they're doing that on purpose to kind of build him up more, give him quote-unquote easier fights. Again, I said this exact same thing on Wednesday. There are no easy fights in the UFC. We know this. But I just think he's such a big name. You probably want to put him up against someone in the top 15 so fans know he's legit. He's already a superstar as it is. And by the way, Sugar Sean on the same card as Conor McGregor. UFC, that's a good move there, I'm going to be honest with him. So, I mean, I think it could be a fun fight. But I don't know if Luis can really compete in there for 3-4 rounds against a guy with such great striking like Sugar Sean, man.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and that'll probably be put on the main card.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's going to be fun having Sean O'Malley and Conor McGregor on the same main card, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
That's all for our fight announcements, but as for the rest, and I'm just going to read what I put on the paper here, Dom. WTF, what the fuck is going on with Diego Sanchez?
I don't know. And that's my answer.
Let's tread lightly, right? Is that the appropriate
That's probably how we should approach this.
So we'll first lay out the specifics, because we're a little late to the game on this story. Probably should have talked about this Monday. We consciously didn't because we wanted to see kind of what happened throughout the rest of the week, because he's been, and I guess it was a good thing we did wait.
He's been going off.
He's been saying a lot of crazy stuff. Now, it started with him releasing some videos that his coach, Joshua Fabia, had taken from like UFC 253 fight week. Diego Sanchez fought Jake Matthews on that card in a very disappointing loss for him. You saw videos where it looked like they had Fabia, Sanchez, and actually Stephan Bonner were left at the airport after the card. There was another video of like the fighter meetings that the commentators put on.
Yeah, with Paul Felder, I saw.
Yeah, Paul Felder, Megan O'Leary was in there, John Anik, a few others. And in his fighter meeting, Fabia kind of went on like a 7-minute rant saying that he was basically started with him just saying that he wanted the commentating to be fair, that they felt like they had been kind of ganging up on someone who's a legend like Diego. And it just kind of spiraled from there to being a complaint about the media and stuff, which, these are UFC commentators, they're not really the media.
And Fabia had even had that altercation with Matt Serra on Fight Island as well, if you remember.
Was that on Fight Island?
Yeah, I believe so.
I felt like that was a long time ago.
It may have been before. I thought it was during COVID, regardless. I'm pretty sure, at least. Maybe not.
But, yeah, this coach has just kind of had his run-ins with everybody, but after this, everybody kind of was like, wow, these videos do not make these guys look good. And they put it out there themselves. So I guess what ends up happening is the UFC ends up releasing Diego Sanchez from his contract because Joshua Fabia apparently had went to, I don't know if it was the UFC's medical staff or whatever, and they wanted all of Diego's medical information, essentially from every time he's visited a medical team since he started fighting for the UFC. So Sean Shelby sees that and is like, what is going on here? And they end up calling him with their legal representative and are like, look, if you are trying to tell us that Diego's like got some physical, like if he's dealing with some injuries or something, we're gonna pull him from the fight, and that's gonna be it.
And that's what it originally was. He was just removed from the fight with Cowboy, and then all this stuff just, I don't know, crazy.
Well, they
snowball.
Said they needed a statement. They needed a statement from, like, in writing from Fabian Sanchez saying that he did not have any like ongoing head injuries or trauma or physical ailments due to fighting, stuff like that. And they didn't sign it. So the UFC releases him from his contract. Now they did give him his show money for the Cowboy fight, his win bonus, and his sponsorship bonus as well.
Really?
So they did. So this goes to show that the problem here is more lies with the coach, not the fighter. Diego Sanchez, a highly respected fighter, the original Ultimate Fighter winner.
Oh yeah.
So it's so disappointing for his career to go out like this.
Yeah, it's just ugly, and it seems there's been such a dark cloud over Diego's career ever since he started with this coach, and it's just gotten progressively worse and worse. And I wish him well, and I hope there's nothing wrong or something we're not seeing, if there's something behind the scenes, because he really is a legend for the UFC. Again, as you mentioned, the OG Ultimate Fighter winner, one of the two. And he's been in absolute just slugfest, some of the best fights we've ever seen ever since 2005. And to think here we are 16 years later, calling it quits. It's, I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's unfortunate. But again, all we can do is just kind of wish the best and hope there's nothing worse behind the scenes we're not seeing.
Well, I think the reason you're saying that is not just because of this, but also because of really this week he's kind of gone on a lot of rants. He's been on a big media tour against the UFC. Do you want to elaborate on some of the comments he's been making?
I mean, just things, paranoia about how he thinks the UFC is going to come after him in a couple years, and don't be surprised if he shows up and you hear some bad news about him, or dead or injured, and just very odd stuff. And he went on a very big rant about Dana and how he's, I don't know, man. It's just, it makes you uncomfortable listening to it even. And then it makes you wonder, okay, maybe he should seek treatment, or maybe there is something wrong. I mean, again, a guy that's been in a lot of wars, you can only hope that maybe it's just anger and frustration that's leading to him saying a lot of this outside of some internal issues. And I mean, that's really all I can say on it, to be truthful.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that's kind of where we're going to leave it, but hopefully just want the best for Diego. Truthfully, don't think that his coach has the best intentions for him. But again, that's appears to be more speculative right now, so we'll just leave it there. But that's going to be it for today's edition of The News.
The News. We've got a 6-fight main card, ladies and gentlemen.
6 fights?
It's been too long since we've had one. Oh, it's been too long, Noah.
Just wait. They're going to at the last second pluck one of these off the main card.
You better shut it. I mean, look at the fight we're starting the main card off with. Hello?
This is a big one. Women's strawweight, Amanda Ribas, still probably the biggest prospect in the division, going up against a true veteran.
Mm-hmm.
A woman who's been there from the division starting point.
The always game, Angela Hill. Oh, was that my segue?
Yeah, that was your segue.
Okay, so again, Amanda Ribas, Angela Hill. Amanda is 10-2, 4-1 in the UFC. She's got 3 KO TKOs and 4 submissions. 5 of those 7 have came in the first round. Notable wins: her debut against Emily Whitmire in a dominant fashion, and then finished her with a submission. 2 back-to-back decision wins. Once against Mackenzie Dern. That was Dern's first career loss. and against Randa Marcos, and then submitted Paige Van Zandt last summer at Fight Island. Notable losses, she actually has lost to Poliana Viana. That was back at Jungle Fight 83 in Brazil in 2015. That was via KO. And then one half of the headliner of UFC Vegas 26, Marina Rodriguez, TKO'd Amanda earlier this year in January at UFC 257. After really, Amanda looked amazing in round number 1, but went out early in round 2. Brutal shot there by Rodriguez. And for Angela Hill, she's 13-9, 8-9 in the UFC with 5 KO TKOs. Notable wins against Ashley Yoder twice, the second one being her most recent victory. Both of those via decision, and also has a TKO victory over Hannah Cyphers. But man, if you look at the notable losses, she has fought the who's who of this weight class ever since it really began in the UFC. And it starts with Carla Esparza on The Ultimate Fighter Season 20 in the first round. She lost via submission. That was in 2014. And then actual UFC fights, Tisha Torres via decision. She got submitted by current champion Rose Namajunas. Lost the decision to Jessica Andrade and Nina Nunes. A split decision to Courtney Casey. Submitted by Randa Marcos. A unanimous decision to Yan Xiaonan, who's about to fight Carla Esparza in a number 1 contender fight. And then back-to-back split decisions, one against Claudia Gadelha. We both feel very confidently that she won that fight and got robbed. And then the other half of the Vegas 26 main event, Michelle Waterson, her and Angela had a Fight of the Year contender in 2020. They battled to a split decision, and Michelle got the advantage on the judges' scorecards in a razor-close fight, super competitive. And really, that's the way to describe Angela Hill's whole career. She's always in these competitive, hard-fought battles, and I don't think it's going to be any different in this one. However, how do you feel she fares against someone as well-rounded as Amanda Ribas?
Yeah, a lot of questions have came up about Amanda Ribas' I guess, true well-roundedness after her last performance. I mean, looked really good round 1. But it was the strengths that we already know she has. It's that jiu-jitsu. She's really good with that. Very slick with jiu-jitsu and getting the fight to the ground. But on the feet, man, she got starched. There's no way around it. And now Marina Rodriguez, one of the best when it comes to the stand-up.
Man, and who saw that power coming? Woo!
And her power very much carries in that division. Angela Hill, not going to have the same kind of power, which fares well for Amanda Ribas, but she is still someone that will put the pressure on you. She will, she'll put you in a dogfight, and she's a veteran. She knows how to kind of squeak out, keep herself competitive in some of these fights that maybe she shouldn't be competitive in. She's came up on the wrong end of a few split decisions, as we've talked about. She's a dog, man. She's great. I don't think that she's going to be able to beat Amanda Ribas, though, in this matchup. I think Amanda's going to come back here and
I think she's got something to prove.
I don't even know if it's that, though. I wouldn't even surprise me if Amanda plays it safe here. I think Amanda's too technically sound right now. And I think that she'll win this fight, but I think it's going to be via decision.
See, I'm kind of in the opposite spectrum where I think Amanda's going to come out and be aggressive. And that's only because, man, Angela Hill can set a pace too. And when she gets on you and pushes you up against the fence with her output, it can cause some issues, especially when you know she can go for 5 rounds. We saw it most recently with Michelle. I think Amanda's going to come in and look to get it done early, and I think she's going to be able to do that. I'm going Amanda Ribas, a bounce-back victory to start off the main card. First round submission. We don't see Angela Hill get finished often, but I think Ribas is going to... she's going to come out and make a statement, I believe, this Saturday night.
Cool. 2 underrated lightweights going at it next. This fight, big sleeper on the card right here.
No shit.
Diego Ferreira looking to bounce back from his loss to Beneil Dariush. Going up against Gregor Gillespie, who we haven't seen since he got head kicked into going oblivion for a year and a half against Kevin Lee.
Yeah, man, and again, Diego just had that 3-round war with Beneil Dariush earlier this year. Gillespie, previously scheduled to fight Brad Riddell a few weeks ago. Really, it's probably over a month ago at this point. I don't remember the specific date. Now they both got rebooked different opponents, and honestly, both guys have more competitive, more fun fights in my opinion, so I love it. But first, we start with Gregor versus Diego. Diego is 17-3, 8-3 in the UFC. He's got 3 KO TKOs, 7 submissions. 4 of those 10 finishes have been in the first round. Notable wins against Olivier Aubin and Mercier via decision. He TKO'd Jared Gordon and submitted Anthony Pettis. Notable losses, well, 2 out of 3 have been to the same guy. Beneil Dariush beat him twice, once via unanimous and once via split decision, and then got KO'd by Dustin Poirier. Outside of that, a flawless record. At the other end, Gregor Gillespie, 13-1, 6-1 in the UFC, 6 KO TKOs, 5 submissions. That's 11 out of 13 via finish, and 7 of those 11 have came in the first round. Notable win against Yancy Medeiros. He TKO'd him there. And the lone loss in the UFC and in his entire professional career, the brutal head kick from Kevin Lee over a year ago now. And I'm telling you, this is a battle of 2 of the most underrated fighters in that division and honestly in the UFC. And it's crazy because I said the exact same thing when Diego Ferreira fought Beneil Dariush earlier this year. But of course, as we all know, Beneil about to fight Tony next week. So both these guys getting that shine in this first quarter of 2021. I think this fight is very fun on paper.
It's very fun because it's so interesting. I mean, both these guys like to fight on the ground. But Gillespie likes to take it there, like to be on top. He's a mauler of a grappler. I mean, he will not stop for those takedowns. But for Ferreira, he'll let the fight get to the ground because he's so good with his submissions, even off his back. And that's where this matchup gets really interesting. You know, Gillespie, he can submit you, but he also can very much just TKO you with some ground and pound. I mean, he's constantly throwing something, you know. He really tries to get in your head when he gets these takedowns, really puts his forehead up against your chin, just always kind of making you uncomfortable. So that's where this matchup is so interesting because Ferreira is going to be kind of in a place where he is comfortable if he's on the ground. So I don't know, Dom, where do you kind of see who takes kind of the edge here?
This is my fight of the night. I think this is going to be I think it's going to be a grinded out fight. And sometimes, again, when we get these grapplers, they might just try and stand and bang. I think it could be really fun. But I actually see Diego Ferreira coming out on the winning side of this via decision. I think it's going to be a very good, very fun fight. Love this stylistically. I love the matchmaking. A big stage for both guys being on the main card. I think Ferreira gets it done. Razor-thin decision victory for him.
I'm going to go with Gregor this one. I think Gregor's got the offensive prowess to really kind of dominate this fight. A lot of Ferreira's weapons here are going to be kind of defensively, you know, the submissions when he's really trying to scramble out from the bottom, stuff like that. It can get really interesting there because, you know, I mean, Gregor's never been caught in a submission. You know, the only loss he has, head kick KO. But it wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to go with Gregor, though. I think he's going to really just, again, I'm going to expect another play it safe type performance here. I think Gregor gets it done with the decision win in this one.
I love it. I love it.
On to the next fight. We got... Lost my sheet here.
Magny Neal?
Nope.
The heavyweights?
Next fight, heavyweight boys, the Big E boys. Marcos Rogerio de Lima going up against Maurice Green.
Now this one's interesting. Very interesting fight, but what's a main card without some heavyweights, am I right? Maurice Green is 9-5, 4-3 in the UFC. He's got 2 KO TKOs, 5 submissions, 6 of those 7 finishes in the first round. Notable win against John Vellante via submission. Notable losses to Sergey Pavlovich via TKO. Got submitted by Alexei Olenek, again, who doesn't get submitted by that guy. and got TKO'd most recently by Greg Hardy. For Marcus, he's 17-7-1, 6-5 in the UFC. He's got 12 KO TKOs, 3 submissions, 13 of those 15 finishes in the first round. No notable wins, in my opinion, although he's fought some tough guys, but notable losses, man. He's got a bit of a resume here. Nikita Krylov via submission, got submitted by Ovent St. Preux, got submitted by Stefan Struve, got submitted by Alexander Romanov, and Noah, he's getting submitted again tomorrow night at UFC Vegas 26 when Maurice Green finishes him in the first round via submission. I guess I should just reiterate it again.
Interesting. Yeah, it's tough because D'Oliva has the better names on his resume, but they're all in losing efforts.
Right.
Now, he's losing via submission to, Ovent St. Preux, a great submission specialist. You got Nikita Krylov, another great submission specialist. Stefan Struve, but, it happens.
The skyscraper, baby.
Yeah, so, he's not he's losing via submission, but it's usually to very technical submission specialists. Maurice Green has submission capabilities. He's very good on the ground. But as was apparent in his last fight with Greg Hardy, he's a bit of a novice on the feet. And D'Oliva can really, if D'Oliva can keep this fight on the feet, I have no doubt that he can knock out or finish Maurice Green with his hands. If Greg Hardy can do it, then someone like D'Oliva, who's been doing it much longer, can do it as well. And that's why I'm actually going to go with Marcos Rogerio D'Oliva via second round KO TKO.
I love the little beat you had there to rev up your prediction. I like that. I like it.
I had to think about it. Now moving on to Neal versus Neal.
I mean, again, this could have been a main event.
Versus Jeff Neal, a big one at welterweight.
Yeah, it could have been a main event here. This fight originally scheduled for last August fell through. Both guys have since fought, went their separate ways, but they find each other here at UFC Vegas 26. Neil Magny is 24-8, 17-7 in the UFC. Again, one of the most slept-on guys on the roster. 7 KO TKOs, 3 submissions. Notable wins against Kelvin Gastelum via split decision. TKO'd Hector Lombard. And then all decision victories here. Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit, Li Jingliang, Anthony Rocco Martin, and Robbie Lawler. Notable losses to Damian Maia via submission. Everyone loses Damian Maia via submission. He got TKO'd by Lorenz Larkin, submitted by RDA, KO'd by Santiago Ponzinibbio, and most recently in his main event on Fight Island, lost a decision to Michael Chiesa. On the other end, Jeff Neal is 13-3, 5-1 in the UFC, and then he came into the UFC from the Contender Series, so got a win there. He's got 8 KO TKOs, 2 submissions, 6 of those 10 finishes in the first round. Notable wins already in his young career against Bilal Muhammad via decision, TKO'd Nico Price and Mike Perry. Notable losses, he actually fought Kevin Holland back in the day at Extreme Knockout 34 in 2017 and got TKO'd. And then in his biggest fight yet of his career, fought Stephen Thompson and lost a decision in what was his first main event in the UFC. This fight, to me, is kind of that grappler versus striker, although Magny is that grappler that can keep it in the clinch and grind you out, up against the cage. Not necessarily. I mean, he can get the takedowns, obviously, and ground and pound you, but he loves that clinch work. So it's going to be a tough fight here for Neal, but man, he's got the power to really pose some threats if it gets into that dirty boxing range. That could cause problems for Neil Magny, I believe.
Yeah, this is a big fight for both guys, but for Neil Magny, he's once again in a position that's probably pretty familiar to him. He hit pretty close to his ceiling, and then comes into a fight with Michael Chiesa where if he wins that, he's a fight away maybe from a title shot, and then he puts in a pretty subpar performance, truthfully. It wasn't a great performance from him. So now it's kind of like we're back at square one in a way, even if it's not really that extreme. It just kind of feels that way with Neil Magny right now. Like there's not. It's kind of like what's the word? Like the love is gone. Like you're just it was like we were rooting for you, and now it's like man.
Well, again, like we always say, he gets to that biggest fight. That one fight where he's one away from really cracking in and he falls. So he's matched up again with a guy in Neil. Now it's a tough test, but still a step back in terms of the rest of this crazy stacked welterweight division. I think the veteran expertise plays a factor here.
We gotta stop saying Neil so much in this one.
Magny and Jeff.
Okay. Now what I'm getting at here is that Jeff Neal coming off a gutsy performance against Stephen Thompson, but one where he was clearly outmatched in the striking department. I wouldn't say he'd be outmatched here with Neil Magny, but Neil Magny does have some tricks up his sleeve, man. You're right. For a guy that has such a reach like his, he loves to get up close, punch up, get that dirty boxing going, and really that probably is to his benefit in this fight. Jeff Neal has the knockout power to finish Neil Magny, but he's not quite developed the fight IQ to really keep someone as technically sound as Neil Magny off of him for 3 rounds. So that's where this fight gets really interesting. I could see it going really either way. I am gonna go with Jeff Neal, and I'm going to go via. I'm actually going to go via decision, though. Funny enough,
you think so? You think he can get it over the course of 3 rounds?
I think this is going to be a really close fight, a bit of a tit for tat. I think each guy maybe gets a round going into the third, and then maybe Magny drops him or something, or excuse me, Jeff Neal drops Neil Magny or something and gets the edge that way. But it'll be a good bounce back and probably a better performance for Neil Magny, but leave it there for now.
See, again, so I'm going to revisit our point, like I was saying, where Magny gets to that biggest fight and falters, but then he can just go on a tear right after. I think we're going to see the start of something else here for Magny. I think the veteran expertise is going to play a huge factor. I think his grappling and just that grinded out style when he puts people up on the fence, man, he's way stronger than what meets the eye too. Because Jeff Neal, he's a tank. This dude's strong. But I think Magny's going to be able to get the edge. Now, at distance, obviously there's going to be problems with Jeff Neal's power. But over the course of 3 rounds, if Magny can implement that grappling, I think he's going to grind it out, tire Neal. I think he grinds out a decision. I think Magny gets it done against the rising prospect. And then again, what could be next for Magny? One more big fight. Who knows what will happen after this one? But all I know is UFC Vegas 26, he gets it done again with his 18th UFC victory. Everyone, I mean, think about it. This guy's been grinding out in the UFC for years now. He's very slept on, and I think he's going to show it on Saturday.
You know what's interesting, though, is that, this really isn't even, a step back that much. I mean, Jeff Neal is a very highly regarded, I guess you call him prospect still. He's a guy with a lot of momentum. I know he got, put in his place a little bit by Thompson, but still a guy with a lot of hype around him. In some ways, a win here, he's kind of propelled still to the same position. If anything, it's sort of on the same level as the Chiesa fight in my eyes.
Yeah.
Rather than getting a true step back, he's given someone whose ceiling is probably higher than Michael Chiesa right now.
That's a good point.
Just Jeff Neal's got to really work on some of the other aspects of his game.
Right.
But one thing that guy does show a lot of is if you let him, he will bully you in the cage.
Yeah.
And not to harp on this, but Neil Magny did kind of allow himself to get bullied against Ponzinibbio. And I even would go as far to say he let himself get bullied against Michael Chiesa a little bit.
Oh, definitely did. Definitely.
So, because of that, I just see if Jeff Neal's... It's kind of a mental thing. If Jeff Neal mentally sees himself as superior, and if he starts kind of getting in his groove a little bit, then it's going to be a long night for Neil Magny in my eyes.
Yeah.
A lot of disagreements so far. I like it.
I know.
Now we're on to the co-main event of the evening.
Oh, boy.
Talk about some shakeup.
Woo!
Diego Sanchez originally supposed to be in here, but obviously, as we talked about in the news, no longer with the UFC because of that. The Cowboy needs a new dance partner. Donald Cerrone goes up against Alex Morano, making the call. What are your thoughts here?
Well, the Cowboy's in the saddle again, Noah. And boy, do I have a laundry list of stuff to talk about here, so throw in some drinks, get you some popcorn because, woo! Donald Cowboy Cerrone, 36 wins, 15 losses, 2 no contests. He is 23-12 with 1 no contest in the UFC, the all-time leader in wins in the UFC, the all-time leader in finishes in the UFC, the all-time leader in bonuses. He's going to tie Jim Miller for the most UFC appearances when he walks into that cage Saturday night. The list goes on and on, kind of like how this list is about to be with his opponents. He's got 10 KO TKOs, 17 submissions. That's 27 out of 36 via finish. 15 of those in the first round. Notable wins. James Krause at WEC 41 in 2009 via submission. Way back. And now, Charles Oliveira, who's getting ready to fight for a title. Donald TKO'd him. He submitted Dennis Seaver, a decision over Jeremy Stevens, KO'd Melvin Gillard, submitted Edson Barboza, KO'd Jim Miller, decision over Eddie Alvarez, decision over Miles Jury and Benson Henderson, TKO'd John McDessie, submitted Alex Oliveira, TKO'd Patrick Cote, TKO'd Rick Story, KO'd Matt Brown with a brutal head kick. That one was nasty. A TKO of Yancy Medeiros, submitted Mike Perry, TKO'd Alexander Hernandez, and his most recent victory, a main event decision over Al Iaquinta. Notable losses. He's lost to Benson Henderson twice, once via decision, once via submission. Lost the decision to Nate Diaz, got KO'd by Anthony Pettis. Has lost to Rafael Dos Anjos twice, once via decision, once via TKO. Lost the TKO to Jorge Masvidal, a decision to Robbie Lawler, TKO'd by Darren Till during his rise, lost the decision to Leon Edwards, and this is where it starts to get a little murky water here for Cowboy's career because in his last 5 fights, we've got no wins. Now, his most recent fight was against Nico Price, and it was a no contest. However, before that was on a 4-fight losing streak. Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, all via TKO, and then lost the decision to Anthony Pettis. So he's lost to Anthony Pettis twice. And here we are now, coming into this with Alex Morano. Definitely a step back in terms of name value, but Alex Morano is still a stud in his own right, man. He's 18-7 with 1 no contest, 7-4 in the UFC with the no contest. He's got 5 KO TKOs, 6 submissions, 10 out of those 11 in the first round, with notable wins against Song Kenan via decision and Max Griffin via decision. Notable losses to Chaos Williams via KO, as does everyone that faces Chaos Williams, that loses to Chaos, I should say. And then lost the decision to Anthony Pettis in his most recent bout, and that was actually Pettis' last fight in the UFC. I think this is a really fun, stylistic fight. But it seems like right now we're seeing that motivated Cowboy, that dad strength Cowboy trying to make a return. What do you think's going to happen here, Noah?
So this is my fight of the night pick. I'm going to be honest. I think this fight's going to be beautiful chaos, if you will. You're right. Cowboy already does look super motivated coming into this one. We haven't seen him since the fall.
Hopefully that plays a positive factor for him because this is a guy that was fighting every week, you know.
Yeah, you look at when he lost to Conor McGregor to start off our first pay-per-view in 2020. He then fought on 249 against Anthony Pettis, and then we didn't see him again until that fight night in October, I think.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Against Nico Price. You know, that's still 3 times in a year, but yet it felt like we haven't seen him in forever, but really it's just he's taken a good amount of time off here. And he's going up against Alex Morano, who, you're right, very tough guy in his own right. He's very good if this fight gets to the ground. You saw that in the Anthony Pettis fight. He completely controlled round one, just kind of dominated Anthony Pettis on the ground. But once the fight stays on the feet for a little bit too long, not that Murado doesn't have capabilities on the feet, but when you're going up against a guy like Cowboy Cerrone, you got to come with a little bit more than just capabilities. And because of that, I really think that really no matter where this fight goes, I think Cowboy really does have the skills to finish this fight anywhere.
Well, Cowboy's ground game's so slept on,
That's a great point. Murado, first degree black belt in BJJ, but Cowboy has some really good submissions in his own right, and he's even a black belt as well in BJJ. So these guys, it's really, I don't see where Murado is really better than Cowboy outside of, at this point, is Cowboy's chin able to hold up?
Mm-hmm.
He nearly got finished in that Nico Price fight, and probably would have lost if not for the fact that a point got taken away. Now, I thought he beat Anthony Pettis, so it's kind of like a null and void point there. I still think Cowboy gets one done here. He said, his quote coming into fight week is that he wants one more run, so another one of those one last stand. He said, I'm shooting one last run for a title, and when I lose, I'm done. So because of that, I think he's going to start off strong here. I'm going to go with the round 3 KO TKO for Cowboy Cerrone, fight of the night.
Yeah, I think this is a very fun fight. I think it will be back and forth in that first round especially. And I think round 2 is where the tide's going to turn. I think Cowboy hurts Marino on the feet. We saw him get badly hurt against Pettis, had the spaghetti legs. I think Cowboy is then able to get him on the ground. I think he actually finishes an injured Marino in the second round via submission. I think it's going to be a barn burner. It always is when Cowboy fights, and it's not going to change here in the co-main event. But the Cowboy rides once more.
Well said. In our main event of the evening, 2 women's strawweights fighting up a division at women's flyweight. Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson. What do you say with this one?
Well, first off, I'm going to say no slander is tolerated. I just wanted to get that off my chest now.
Nope.
But Marina Rodriguez is 13-1 with 2 draws, has one of the funkiest UFC records in her young career so far, 3-1-2 in the UFC, and then got her start in the UFC from the Contender Series, so she got a win there on the Brazilian version. She has got 6 KO TKOs, 1 submission, 4 of those 7 in the first round. Notable wins already, though, against Jessica Aguilar via decision, Tisha Torres via decision, and then that TKO, as we mentioned, against Amanda Hebos. Man, she's got some hidden power in those hands. The lone loss on her record was to former champion Carla Esparza, and that was a razor close split decision. And then the 2 draws, definitely worth mentioning here, Randa Marcos and Cynthia Calvillo. For Michelle Waterson, back for her second straight main event. She's 18-8, 6-4 in the UFC, a former champion and invicta. She's got 3 KO TKOs, 9 submissions, 8 of those 12 in the first round. Notable wins against Jessica Panay. That was actually in Invicta, Invicta FC number 5 to be exact, in 2013 via submission. She submitted Paige Van Zant. Split decision over Courtney Casey. 2 unanimous decisions over Felice Herrig and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And then her most recent bout, again, the Fight of the Year contender last year against Angela Hill, edged out a split decision there. Notable losses to current champion Rose Namajunas via submission after getting brutally head kicked in that fight. I think a lot of people forgot how that submission started. Lost the decision to Tisha Torres and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and a split decision with Carla Esparza. So both of these women have razor-thin split losses to Carla. I think this is a really fun, stylistic chess match on the feet, Noah.
I agree, but I think one's going to overtake the other here. And truthfully, as good as Michelle Waterson can be at times, her technique is, it's good, but Marina is just a whole nother beast. Man, that fight, her last performance showed a lot for me.
Well, I truthfully think that this fight being at 125 plays a big factor in this because Michelle Waterson, and we're talking about an atom weight. She was a 105-pound fighter in Invicta, man. I mean, she's small. And Rodriguez, relatively big at this weight class. You saw how she looked against Hebas. I think the weight class plays a big factor here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too, is that the weight classes here played a big factor because Rodriguez is already so big for
115
strawweight.
Yeah.
And now that this fight's at flyweight, the power's going to be there even more. She's probably not going to lose much on her movement. I mean, her technique's still going to be there. I really think this is a tough fight for Michelle Waterson to take on right now. For someone like her who is technical, who can do some very slick things on the feet, but also she's a bit over technical at times. You'll see clips online of her throwing feints, but she'll be like 10 feet away from the person. It's just sometimes she's a little too much into the technical side, and to the point where it's like at her own, it's not really helping her win the fight. So I'm actually going to go with Marina Rodriguez here. I think this is going to be a bit one-sided. I mean, we're going to go that far. I still think this fight probably goes to a decision. I want to give Marina a finish here, but I don't want to put too much on her last performance. She's still not someone that necessarily finishes at a very high rate. So because of that, I'm going to go with the decision.
Yeah, I do think Marina gets it done over the course of 5 rounds. I will say, on the other end, because like I said, the weight's going to play a factor positively for Rodriguez. I think 5 rounds does play a factor for Waterson because she's been there and done that. She's been in multiple main events, but I think the weight is going to play a bigger dividends here. I think Marina gets it done via decision. I think it will be razor close. I look for this fight, if it goes to the ground, to be very interesting because Michelle, similar to Cowboy, very slept on ground skills, and that's where we have seen Marina struggle. But can Michelle get her to the ground? And if she can she hold her down, especially at 125 pounds? Again, it's all coming back to the weight class for me in this one.
That's a big ask for her.
Yeah.
If you can get her down, to hold her down.
Yeah.
Marina, even if she's not the most technically sound grappler, she might just pull a Derek Lewis and
just stand up
her way in.
Yeah. So
it really can't be that simple for her.
Yeah, man. I don't think we're making too big of a deal. I think we're nailing it on the head. 125 pounds. Look for it to play a factor, and I think Rodriguez gets it done via decision in a close fight. But I think she does, or I think she will show some things in this that impress a lot of people.
Cool. That's going to wrap up our preview for #UFC Vegas 26. As for the rest, as for next week, Monday, it's going to be a recap of the fights that we just talked about here. And then Friday, it's going to be a huge preview show for
Holy shitballs.
UFC 262, a new lightweight champion will be crowned. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. And then now, as you mentioned earlier, Tony Ferguson and Beneil Dariush, the new co-main event of that card.
Oh, we got Shane Burgos, Edson Barboza on that card. Prelims, Jacare Souza's on the prelims. Matt Schnell and Rogerio Bontaran. Andrea Lee, Antonina Shevchenko. Ooh, ooh. Man, it's stacked.
Yes, thank you.
I thought I lost you there for a second. Sucks when I can't see you.
But until then, Dominic, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Find me on Twitter, on Instagram, at DSlee14, and find the podcast, more importantly, on Twitter, on Instagram, at BAJ_MMA podcast.
And as for me, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram, at NTBaker_, you'll be taken to my link tree, which gives you the links to all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with the social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple links for the Anchor page. First, leaving a voice message. If you have a thought about an upcoming fight, a news story, if you just want to say hi or say we're a couple pieces of shit, you do it there. And there's a link if you want to become a supporter of the podcast. That just provides us with a few dollars a month. All that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast, whether it be audio equipment or down the line doing a video podcast. So again, you can find all that if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at @ntbaker_. But with that, we're out. We'll see y'all on Monday.